Just one more sleep until the 2026 NFL Draft. Matt Miller has released his final mock draft on Wednesday afternoon, and no surprise, has Fernando Mendoza heading to Vegas. There's been a lot of movement, though, right after that, including Texas Tech's David Bailey gaining momentum at number 2. Time now for SportsCenter on the Road, presented by Geico, as we welcome in our NFL Draft analyst, Matt Miller. Matt, first of all, a couple noticeable changes in your final mock draft, including David Bailey rising 6 spots to the Jets at number 2. I'm curious what changed in the past couple weeks, and I'm curious if it at all gives you pause, the fact that the Jets canceled their 30 visit with him.
Yeah, that's definitely a consideration. The Jets are doing a great job of keeping everything close to the vest right now. They're not letting leaks out of that building, which is uncommon for the New York Jets, but Darren Muji's definitely doing a good job of controlling the narrative right now. The rise for Bailey really comes to the fact that he is the Titans for nose tackle, T'Vondre Sweat among those. And now it looks like edge rusher will be the spot that they go at number 2, despite having needs at quarterback and needs at wide receiver. Bailey had a fantastic year with 14.5 sacks. He has the best speed moves in this year's class, and that's something the Jets desperately need as they move to more of a 3-4 style defense. Bailey's ability in space gives him the edge over some of the other players in this class.
Now, Jordyn Tyson is your first wide receiver off the board, going number 5 overall to the New York Giants. I'm curious, though, while I do respect showing love to the Sun Devil, why Tyson over Carnell Tate?
This is, Maddie, what's fun is between your rankings and your mock draft, how different they can be. Jordyn Tyson is my number 4 receiver on my personal between his time at Colorado and Arizona State. So availability is the concern for Jordyn Tyson, but when he's on the field, teams feel like he's the best receiver in this draft.
Now, a lot of big names in this draft, a lot of names that we're hearing a lot of buzz about going into Thursday night, but who should we keep an eye on as perhaps a late riser in Thursday's night 1?
Yeah, Peter Woods, the defensive tackle from Clemson, might actually be the only interior defensive lineman drafted in the first round if he does indeed go inside the top 32 picks. In my talks with teams, I wanted to find a spot for him in the first round of the final mock draft. I think he finds his way in once all the trading is done. Peter Woods is seen as someone in 2024, we thought he'd be a top 10 pick. I know there were teams that came into the year thinking he might be the number 1 overall pick. The numbers this year weren't that great, but the traits are still there. All the things we saw on tape in 2024 stand in 2025, and that is what's pushing him up the board to where maybe somewhere in the early 20s, Peter Woods does come off the board.
Well, looking forward to all of these storylines unfolding. Thursday night, 8 p.m., the NFL Draft kicks off. Matt Miller, enjoy Pittsburgh. Go get some Primantis. Thanks for the insight.
Big news out of Big D. The Cowboys now expect George Pickens to play on the franchise tag this season, and they say they will not negotiate with Pickens or his agent on a long-term deal. He's coming off a career year. He has yet to sign his franchise tender, which is for $27.3 million this season. For more on the Cowboys draft plan, here's Jeff Darlington.
Well, if the Cowboys draft is anywhere near as eventful as the day before their draft, we're in for some fun. During their pre-draft press conference, which lasted almost a full hour, we had an unexpected appearance from former President Bill Clinton, who chatted with his Arkansas friend, Jerry Jones, in front of the assembled media. And that was before the Cowboys said they would not be negotiating with wide receiver George Pickens for a long-term deal, instead planning for him to play on the franchise tag. Now, especially interesting since the Cowboys are a defensive-needy team. But Jones said even though they do need a defensive...
Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love was the nation's best running back last season, and the unanimous All-American has the chance to be a total game changer at the next level. He has a unique combination of strength and vision and balance, and his 40 scrimmage touchdowns were 7 more than any FBS player in the last 2 seasons. Love forced 122 missed tackles on his runs over the last 2 years, 5th in the nation. He's a very good route runner and can absolutely impact the passing game. Love averaged more than 10 yards per reception in his final college season, and 48% of his catches resulted in a first down, the 5th best rate among FBS running backs. He has phenomenal speed and agility and uses that 4.3 speed to run away from defenses. His 15 rushes and 12 touchdowns, reaching at least 20 miles per hour, led all running backs over the last 2 years. For me, Jeremiah Love is a bigger version of Jahmyr Gibbs and can quickly become one of the best and most impactful running backs in all.
The Giants have pick number 5, one of their 2 first-rounders. They also got the 10th pick in the Dexter Lawrence trade. New York has plenty of needs after a 4-13 season, and Kimberly Martin is on the scene to talk draft strategy for the G-men.
Hannah, in league circles, the big question on everyone's mind is who will actually be running the Giants draft when they're on the clock? Now, I can tell you from being here the past 2 days that head coach John Harbaugh is a lot more involved in the draft process than most head coaches. And GM Joe Shane told me he likes that. They spent most of Monday in Shane's office going over draft day scenarios and discussing which players their coordinators liked the most. I can tell you by Tuesday, around noon, their board was pretty much set. So with 2 picks in the top 10, the message inside this building has been clear. Don't overthink it, just take good football players.
Great insight there, Kimberly. Thank you. Next up, Titans at number 4. Tennessee, as you know, took Cam Ward with the first overall pick last year. Their new head coach, Robert Saleh, is a defensive guy. Once again, he was the 49ers DC last season. The Titans certainly could use a playmaker on that side of the ball. Plenty are available, as both Mel Kiper Jr. and Matt Miller have Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love instead headed to Nashville, the explosive playmaker we just heard about in their recent mock drafts. But Field Yates and Jordan Reed have them taking an impact defensive player there. So if he's on the board, that's going to be super interesting. So selecting third, the Arizona Cardinals, another team with a new head coach. As you know, former Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur certainly has his work cut out for him. You know, they cut Kyler Murray. Arizona has a ton of needs after a 3-win season. And here's who our draft experts have them taking. 3 out of 4 have the Cardinals taking Arvell Reese, while Jordan Reed has Francis Mauigoa coming out of Miami, going to Arizona to shore up that offensive line for no matter who's throwing the ball. All right, the draft starts at number 2. The Jets can go any number of ways. They need an edge rusher, a secondary receiver, long-term solution at quarterback. Not going to be picked there. Remember, they also have the 16th pick. Sal Paolantonio is covering the Jets with more.
Here's the headline in the New York Post today. Everybody's on edge to see which edge rusher the Jets will take at number 2. Will it be Arvell Reese of Ohio State or David Bailey of Texas Tech? And what the Jets do at number 2 will determine what a lot of other teams will do in picks 3 through 10. At 16, I'm hearing the New York Jets are open for business. They may want to move up and get a wide receiver like Jordyn Tyson, or move down if Tyson's going to be later available in the first round. But there is no expectation that the Jets will take a quarterback on day 1. Back to you.
Thanks, Sal Powell. And the number 1 selection in the 2026 NFL Draft. We know the Raiders are going to take quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Hard to argue with that Heisman Trophy, the undefeated season, the national championship. Lindsey Theory has some insight into Vegas's thinking.
Hannah, the Raiders will select Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza with that first overall pick. But what happens after that? The Raiders have 9 more selections. Watch for them early to address defensive tackle as they shift to a 3-4 scheme, and also pick a receiver to help bolster that offense that Mendoza eventually will take over. One more interesting note. I spoke with general manager John Spytek and asked him how many phone calls he's been fielding. Spytek tells me the lines are always open, and then he rattled off all of the names of their outside backers, telling me they live in a world where they're all here right now, but there might come a time when they're not.
Thanks, Lindsay. All right, SportsCenter on the Road is presented by Geico. As we head to Pittsburgh now, we welcome in draft analyst Matt Miller, front office insider Mike Tannenbaum, as we continue to dive into these top 5 picks. All right, Matt, let's start with you. Which team is the biggest wild card going into tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's one of those we just looked at. The Arizona Cardinals are definitely a wild card. No one knows what they're going to do at number 3 overall. Monty Ossenfort, the general manager, has some directions he could go. Arvell Reese, the outside linebacker edge rusher from Ohio State. Or could they surprise us and take Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame? Love is my number 1 overall player in the draft. Now, do you take a running back in the top 3, knowing that they would immediately become the highest paid running back in NFL history. So that is the question the Cardinals face right now. The third option might be trading out. Does a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Dallas Cowboys make that aggressive move up the board to get one of the top defensive players if Reese is still there? My final mock had Arizona going with Reese, but I think that's where the draft actually starts this year.
Matt, I'm going to go with the New York Giants at 5. They also have the 10th pick, but at 5, this is a high variance situation. It's really the inverse of what you just laid out. If Jeremiah Love is there, I think they're going to consider him. But how about Arvell Reese, who we're looking at right here at number 5? Only 20 years old, 6.5 sacks this year, but has a tremendous ceiling. This is a tone-setting pick for the New York Giants. First pick under new head coach John Harbaugh. They're going to want an impact player. They have holes all over this roster. It will be fascinating to see what they do if Jeremiah Love is off the board.
Wow, or if Reese is still there, which seems unlikely as well. Really interesting. You never know what to expect. And you mentioned the G-Men. They have 2 picks in the first round. So do 5 other teams. So, Mike, who has the most riding on absolutely nailing those picks? You're talking Jets, Giants, Browns, Chiefs, Finns, and Cowboys.
Hannah, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're at 9-29. Their talent has really eroded. They need a starting corner. They lost 3 corners. They need a wide receiver outside of Rashee Rice. They need an offensive tackle and a pass rusher. So they do have 2 picks in the first round, but they have a lot of work to do. And I expect, and here's what the graphic is laying it out. So again, 2 picks, usually not in the top 10, Hannah. I expect them to have a productive night, maybe even trade back and try to attack 3 of the 4 needs that they have here. So they're going to be an interesting team starting the draft with 2 picks in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I look at another team with 2 first-round picks, the Dallas Cowboys. We've heard all the buzz this week about maybe it could be wide receiver Jordyn Tyson from Arizona State at number 12 overall, with the George Pickens contract situation being what it is, with Adam Schefter reporting that today. But Dallas, come on, we have to go defense. That's what the D in Dallas stands for in this draft, is defense. They need playmakers. They need corners. They need pass rushers. They need an inside. Have to find some pass rushers. I had them going with Auburn's Keldrick Falk, a 6'5", 275-pound, 20-year-old pass rusher from Auburn. I know the temptation's there for the Jones family to go offense. That's what's fun. But please, Dallas, you have to go defense.
Hey, twice before in his history, we have seen Jerry Jones trade into the top 10, both times taking defensive players. It all gets started tomorrow night at 8. And Matt, congrats, your final mock. It just posted on ESPN.